Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. This is a recorded live training that I did about 4 weeks ago now that has taken quite some time to get up, and I do apologize for the delay. But it is a sales training with people from the Affluent Academy as well as people interested in sales in general. It's about an hour and 45 minutes long. Hopefully you can make it through. It has a lot of value in it as well as a lot of the tips and tricks to get me to where I have gotten thus far along my journey with my agency as well as sales and networking in general. Go through it. Let me know in the comments what you took away that was most important or stood out the most to you. And hopefully you can be on the next one. I'll keep you posted with those. So follow me on Instagram up here at Stephen Commer. And make sure to like and subscribe. And also turn the notification bell on so that you can be alerted whenever a new video comes out. Enjoy it. How's everybody doing? Kevin, how are you, man? Good to see you.
Doing good, man. Sorry, you can ignore my last text. I was struggling to get on there, but I got on.
It's all good. It seems like a few people were with the registration for some reason, so not a big deal. Making sure everybody who wants to be here can be here so that we don't miss any steps. So just a little gist for you guys. Whenever we get started, I'm just going to go over a couple basic things, and then we'll open the Q&A. In fact, I'm sure that some of the things that I'm going to say will answer some of the questions. So that way we can get through the more basic things a little quicker and then get more into specific situations where you all can be helping each other out. Or at least with your experience anyway. Let's see here. Alrighty. It is 1:05, so as people begin to continue filing in, they're going to have the benefit of this recording anyway. So I want to just go over a couple things. And obviously, the first thing to do whenever you're trying to sell is that you have to prospect, right? So the best way to prospect is going to be in the way that you find most comfortable. Kevin is a testament to this because he used to be a very big advocate of the Zoom calls for meetings. I got him on the call track, and Kevin, I don't know if you want to kind of give a little bit of your experience with calls versus Zoom. That would be cool.
No, yeah, I'm cool. I don't mind talking. So, yeah, I had a meeting with Steven, I want to say maybe about 3 weeks ago. And we're not even a meeting, and we're just talking on Instagram. And I was telling him how I had a meeting with this lady, but I didn't do well because it's a phone call. And I feel like the phone calls didn't really work because I can't show them the process and basically, a lot of excuses. And as he told me, he was like, man, this phone calls is just another way to doing it. It's, there's different methods. Everybody's different, so that what works for one person might not work for the other. But I think that your biggest thing is he said, it's just, you're just not being confident. He was like, you're not being confident, and you have to be confident in what you're doing. Because if you're not being confident, then the customer can tell, and you're just that's why it's not going well. He's like, the phone calls doesn't make a difference, because he's like, I do everything through phone calls. So it kind of let me thinking, and I was like, man, maybe he's right. And so I started having a couple of meetings, little by little. It's all work in progress, right? Because in the beginning it was still kind of messing up here and there on my meetings, but I had a meeting last week with MedSpa, and I actually was texting Steven right before the meeting, asking him some questions, and had the meeting. It was all through the phone. Basically closed the client. I told the lady, all right, cool, I'm going to send you an email with my website and all the information so that we can see who I am, all this stuff. And she goes, oh, man, that's right. I don't even know what you look like. And I was very like, it hit me because I was like, man, this lady doesn't even know what I look like, nothing. But I earned her trust, and I was so confident throughout the meeting that she did not even care. She didn't care how old I was. She didn't care how what I looked like. She didn't even know. She only knew I was in California because I told her I was in California. Otherwise she didn't even know. So it was definitely eye opening. Because like now I don't do no Zoom meetings. There's just no point. It's just so much easier to just take a phone call because it takes 20 to 30 minutes to be on the phone with somebody, and I just find it a lot easier because I can take a phone call from anywhere, and you don't have to worry about trying to set up the meeting and stuff. Like even right now with Steven, I saw him, I was like struggling trying to get onto the Zoom for a second. So it's harder for business owners, to get in a Zoom meeting than it is to get in a phone call. So I do appreciate that, Steven. I do appreciate that because you definitely called me out on it, and you were right. It was just a confidence thing.
Yeah. And, kind of skipping ahead a little bit, that goes more towards connecting with the prospects, which is skipping the first part, just a smidge that we'll get back to. But confidence is key. A phone call is easy because everybody has a phone. Not everybody has a Zoom account, and not everybody has the time to sit down in front of a camera for 30 minutes to an hour to pitch a product or service, or to want to even hear about being pitched a product or service. So whenever you can eliminate objections without even having to deal with them, just by limiting the actual way that you communicate with people, that's the reason I stick to phone calls. Recently, for the first time ever, I was called out on my price for the age that I am, because people don't think that 22 or 23-year-olds should be making that much a month off of just social media service. And I feel like that's something that, regardless of your age, people don't want to reverse justify, if you will. So whenever people look at you, they want to make sure that the people that they work with are credible, and they also have some sort of track record with results, or at least carry themselves well. And the way that you can do that effectively is to be confident in a certain degree of professionalism, but also a certain degree of matter-of-factness, where you are as straight to the point as possible. Because keep in mind, you're a business owner. The last thing you want to do is waste your time. And the last thing that other business owners want is for their time to be wasted. So if you can just kind of get into the nitty-gritty of the specifics of each client, or each prospect rather, you're going to have a higher chance of actually converting them, or at least getting them to see it from your perspective. So with that being said, we'll get back into the prospecting. So the biggest thing is where are you finding your leads? How are you qualifying them? And more importantly is, how are you disqualifying them? There isn't any one magic way to ensure that a client is qualified, because people can have a starting budget, but if they're not recouping that cost or planning for the future, it's going to be hard to continue to justify expenses, your product or service, or even the forward momentum of their business. That's what our goal is as advertisers, or as people that are trying to get our business ahead by helping other people grow their business, is to also ensure that you understand the health of the business that you're trying to assist by doing advertising. So if any of you have any methods of how you're prospecting, leave them in the chat, or just say I do, and I'll unmute you and we'll hear you out. The reason that I want to do it this way is because of the fact that I know that each of us can explain things in a way that makes sense to each of us. So if there's a way that it can be conveyed more meaningfully by someone that's actually experiencing it, that would be beneficial to everybody else. So who has maybe outside of the box prospecting technique, or a way to get or qualified leads that aren't typically outlined in a course, or that you've just found work well for you? Does anybody specifically? Just going to take a pick for the story here. Okay. So a couple of the things that you can do with that being said is focusing on whether your time is more valuable or your money is more valuable. You can get leads lists practically anywhere. They're all over the internet, and it saves you from going and individually qualifying leads as you find them, because they're already found for you. You just have to make sure that their social presence is something that you can help. Check out their background, as well as all of the other things that make the business's digital presence weak enough to justify sending them a proposal or trying to connect with them. Just because of the fact that if you are going to try and convince someone that they need you, you better have a solid foundation or understanding of the way that that business is currently positioning itself. I used Marketer Magic for leads a long time back. Sure your name, but I know I'm going to. Abhishek, I'm going to unmute you if you want to kind of explain your experience with that. I'm sure that some people would benefit from hearing what it's like to buy leads.
Yeah, like a few months back, I just it's kind of subscription based. So when you sign up with them, it costs around, I think, $37 or something,
Mm-hmm.
and you get unlimited leads. I think that gets you all the company's details, email address, phone number, and all. But uh, that is all business details, not the owner details.
Okay. Yeah, we used something very similarly in my agency. It's called D7 Lead Finder. It's a subscription-based service. It's about $39 a month, and you can pull 30 leads lists per day. And those leads lists can range from anything from like a page of 25 leads to a list of, pages of 25 leads. It just depends on the niche that you're searching for. Some of the limitations are is that it's geographically based and niche based, and you can't do a search without having both pieces. So like say for instance, New York City laundromat services. You have to have both of those pieces of information. It just won't let you search for businesses within a certain geography, and it just won't let you search for certain niches without geography to search within. I'm sure that there's other leads generators that don't have those sorts of limitations, but that's the one that we found works best for us. Now, whenever it comes to disqualifying a lead, how many of you, by just a show of a Y or an N for yes or no in the comments, is finding that you're getting more leads that should be disqualified than qualified? Okay. That's definitely helpful to know, because that is very much the case. A lot of businesses right now are hurting for money. Not that they don't need advertising, but some of the limitations are that a lot of businesses are slow. Essential businesses are the most financially drained actually at this point, because they have had the ability to stay open while having a limited ability to earn an income. The people that we should really be targeting in general as digital marketers or service-based providers is to businesses that are just starting during this pandemic. The reason being is they know that they're going to be incurring expenses. They know that they're going to be starting from the ground up. And as long as you can extend an olive branch full of that to make them more valuable to the area or to the customer base that they're trying to get to. So in terms of niches where you guys are looking right now while you're prospecting, what is the one that you're finding to be the one where you're getting the most traction? Not necessarily the one where you're finding the most leads, but the ones that are most willing to, hear you out or something of that nature. You can leave them in the chat if you have any specifically. I know that lead gen is not always a focus if you have clients that you're trying to tend to, just because you might not have time, but it is always something to keep an eye on. So in terms of any prospects that you're finding are willing to hear you out, what would those be? Is nobody doing prospecting? Instagram. So Abhishek, where or what niches specifically are you reaching out to? Like which ones are you finding are the ones that are willing to hear you out versus, not hearing anything from them? I know that follow-up is very important, but initial contact, which are the most willing to hear you out?
First I joined some random groups like supercar groups, like rentals, supercar rentals, like that. And
Yep.
and there the owner post please, anyone who refers their business, they get some commission. So through that I get to the owners through DMs.
Mm-hmm.
And then I approach them through messenger and tell them that you are not using social media marketing, after prospecting, checking their website if they're using Facebook ads or all. So after that I approach them, then they want to know what is social media marketing, what is Facebook ads, like that.
Okay, so these are all businesses that aren't actively using social media to market their rentals.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a very good one. I actually had a really hot lead not that long ago, probably around February, that solely, well, his biggest business is his exotic rentals, but his other business is real estate development in California. And they kind of go hand in hand because they're both higher ticket. They both allow him to kind of have flexibility without having to really be at job sites or, micromanaging people that are, renting his vehicles. It is a very profitable niche. The problem is that there's a lot of overhead as well. So whenever you're marketing, $1,000 a day Ferrari rental, maybe, is the inability to get consistent leads that are willing to pay for probably around $250 to $500 is where you're going to start to really see a return. It's not something that I would think that you would be able to get a ton of leads for $25, if you will. That market is just a little too different in terms of the feasibility to pay, as well as the realistic expectation that each vehicle would be rented out every single day. Now, in California, where he's specifically at is in the Los Angeles area, so that might be a little bit different, but I'm sure that quarantine has hit his business pretty hard. I haven't spoken with him since the second time that we connected, but it is one of those things where the biggest focus for something of that nature is going to be higher ticket clients and specifically focusing on individuals within the projected income of 10% and higher based on the national average. Does anybody else have any good niches that they've been looking at right now where the prospecting is yielding a better return based off of each communication? Or anybody have any sort of insights, even maybe not something that you're actively pursuing, but something that you'd like to pursue? Give you guys a minute for whoever's typing. Professional cleaning services. That's a great one, Abbas. That's something that we've been hammering down within my business, especially. Sanitization companies are very important right now for bigger businesses. I know that doctors' offices in and around my area have just reopened. Doctors' offices have to be very well sanitized, obviously, because of the inherent nature of disease spreading within places where individuals are getting, medical procedures done. You want to make sure that you're doing it in a sanitized, clean space. So that is a great one. The other thing too would be affiliate marketing, professional cleaning services. Now that's a totally different type of sales, and we can cover that in a little bit if you guys have interest. But the single biggest thing that you can do with that is just connecting those cleaning services with businesses just by doing outreach. You don't even really have to do ads. It would automate it a lot, but it's something that people might not be willing to pay for a retainer because the expectation is that people are going to be having those services. So if you can at least make a commission off of those deals, that would be phenomenal. And that's the particular angle I would take. It just depends on what the feasibility is for each cleaning service provider that you're looking for. Real estate is something you really want to tap into, Pat. Okay. The biggest thing that you can do right now as states reopen, at least, and I know that this is different in the US world, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to look at people that are just starting, because they're going to be the most eager to want to show houses, and as well as the super aggressive ones that have had a very proven track record before this. Reason being, that they're going to want to make up for the time that they haven't been able to sell homes. But at the same time, at the beginner level or entry level, this is something that we're doing right now locally. There's a real estate agent that lives about 20 minutes from my house that we just started doing ads for, and we've been able to get, actually, Kevin, I think I sent you those leads. Let me pull up the specific campaign here. We had
you did send me the information, and I sent it over to that realtor that I was talking to.
Okay, cool. We had about 153 link clicks just off of a $25 ad to get a listing agent, which of those that have converted, we aren't aware yet, because it's actually the first day that anybody's able to show homes or operate in the real estate space, but it is something that is going to convert very well. Abba says, I've been working with one local company, had to conduct some research for some ads, came across some international companies who are not doing ads. So in terms of those international companies, are they businesses that service international customers, or is it just that they're based internationally, Abbas? And Sam, that's a great way to build value, is just offering free consultations. I mean, I've been doing that in the Affluent Academy group, and it's kind of helped me connect with more people and offer more value where it's meaningful. So that's a very great way to connect with people on a professional level, just because LinkedIn specifically is more geared toward professionalism. So that is a great way to do it. Sam, have you tried running any LinkedIn ads at all? Or considered it? That might be a great way to kind of fill your funnel if the ad spend isn't too scary. I know LinkedIn ads are significantly more expensive than Facebook, so might not be the worst thing to try. But my mom has a housekeeping business, and now she starts sanitizing businesses. She hasn't even started the business, and she has clients already willing to pay. That is phenomenal. That is phenomenal, Kevin. Congratulations to your mother. That is, like I said, it's something that's very in need. So people are going to be going out of their way to get it, which is why they might not be able to justify advertising. They just might not be too busy, or they might be too busy to handle anything else right now, unless they're looking to scale their teams. I've seen some real estate agents posting virtual tours for their listings and properties. That's a great idea too, Abbas. I actually suggested something similar to the gentleman I was just speaking about that is a real estate agent about was wondering how to make his Instagram lives more engaging. And I said, whenever you go to do a listing, do a live walkthrough, because it'll stay on your story for 24 hours. You can download the video, and then you can post it on IGTV if it's longer than a minute, which if you're going to be showing a house, I assume that it would be, which is a really great way to kind of leverage engagement. Live is very big right now, and Instagram's favoring individuals that are going live more frequently in the algorithm. So you're getting more organic engagement too. Very beneficial. Kevin, how are you going to market the sanitizers with the ban on Facebook ads for sanitizers? Never tried LinkedIn ads, but we'll look into it. So the thing with sanitizing right now is specific to hand sanitizers and cleaning equipment. Cleaning services are totally different as far as I'm aware, because it isn't a product that people are just buying and price gouging for. And the sanitization business from beforehand, whether it be Cintas or I'm trying to think of some of the other big ones in and around my area. They all operated before this. So for them to not be able to promote their business just because it's a cleaning company would be something that I don't think Facebook would try and limit, especially right now, as they've been taking a big hit from advertising revenue for the first, month or so of quarantine. And now that it's bouncing back, especially with e-com ads, it would be a great time to market business. So I don't know why they wouldn't do that. Based internationally, I live on an island. It's only 14 minutes. Gotcha, Abba. So it's just that they're based other places just because Barbados is a little limited. So the best way that you can try and put an angle on the hand sanitizer, Sam, would be to market it as PPE, as long as Facebook hasn't banned that keyword. I know that that's something that people that have been marketing masks have been doing, and maybe they caught on, maybe they didn't. Facebook's kind of quick to act, especially whenever there's a lot of government pressures on, avoiding price gouging or unfair sales practices. I'm working with the band, PPE band, I think. Yeah, I'm thinking that it is as well. You might want to look at calling it a personal care product. You're going to have to really get creative. I know that whenever I was helping a company that sold CBD products on Facebook, we would use the capital letter C, the B emoji, like the insect, and then D. And that worked for a while, and then it ended up getting flagged at some point. But they didn't ban the account, which was great. But it was you have to be very creative when problem solving, especially in times like these where pretty much anything could be limited at any point in time. Let's see here. Share some input on how you went about setting up sales team training, collaboration. Okay, I can definitely do that. That's actually one of the biggest things that I'm dealing with right now. And I know that not everybody is privy to this information, but my business actually just went through a little bit of a divide about a week ago today. All three of my other partners left to cut me out of the majority of my business because I couldn't be removed on paper. So they took the clients that they now technically owned so that they could, cut me out with just forming another entity and taking their clients with them. It hurts, but I can definitely go over that. Setting up sales teams is important with people that are administrative in nature. You don't want to do it with fulfillment people. You want to do it with people that are organized managers. The reason being is because you want people to manage other people. You don't want people to manage people that are doing other things. So myself, for our sales team, I manage a lot of that. I was helping them do the first phase of my cold outreach. I don't know how many of you saw the video I did with Jordan, the original interview, going through my 4-step selling process, which we can get into, where essentially the first piece of outreach is done by a call setter that breaks the barrier with the gatekeeper, gets something scheduled, and then says that it's going to be a call with the owner of our business, not with me. The reason that that's important is because it creates a hierarchy of authority. So the call setter is here. There's probably, in the eyes of the prospect, a bunch of tiers of employees, and then there's the owner and founder, which would have been me or one of my partners at the time. The reason that that's important is it automatically creates a heightened sense of importance to be on that call, because the business owners are going to be seen as equals, not as a salesperson talking to a business owner. So with that being said, I needed call setters to do that. So what I would do is I would get them leads. It would be commission only. And the reason that I would provide the leads is because I wanted to save them time so that they could just hit the phones over and over and over and over again. Something that we were also doing too was email outreach to prevent inconsistencies. So if we called and didn't get an answer, we would have the email on file that's connected to that business and send them an email saying, hey, left a message on your voicemail. Here is a Calendly link so that you can set up a call back to us so that we know when to expect you. About 40% of the time, that would be easy conversion if that email ended up getting to the business owner. The reason that's important is because gatekeepers usually see that as spam or as a solicitation to the business, which business owners typically don't want to deal with unless it's something pertinent to their field. So like say, for instance, dentist's office, if there's a new professional at-home whitening kit, the sales rep for that would be something that they could make money on without having to take time out of the doctor's day to see patients or something of that nature. So the second step of my selling plan is connecting with them on the phone. That is where I'm introduced. And then within that sales call, I go between their personal and business goals. They need to be in line. And the reason being is because of the fact that if you don't know a person's personal goals and you don't understand their business goals, they should be reflective of one another. Their personal goals through what they do on a daily basis, if they're a business owner, are going to be seen in the output of the work for the business. So if they're misaligned, that could be something that's hindering growth. And the reason that that could hinder growth is because simply that those goals aren't in line with one another. So they're going to be conflicting, or they're going to be totally unrelated and trying to kind of stay separate or against each other. So if you can see those two things and connect the ones easily that can be connected. So say, for instance, a personal goal of a prospect is to, be charitable, to, tithe to their church or religion, if that's something that they do, or to also, look at this from a standpoint where charity is important to them for notoriety's sake. So like being known as a giving person. If their business is really greedy and not focusing on money, that seems kind of hypocritical. So you want that goal to be associated with the business too, because everything that you do is a reflection of you. So it's whether you do it personally for your own sake or for the business's sake, you're going to see the intention. And intention is everything whenever it comes to sales and self-portrayal, because if you don't have that connection, fundamentally, you're going to seem like a confusing person. There's going to be too many inconsistencies with how you operate so that other people are going to see that. And it's like, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you say that you want to be charitable as a person, but your business be solely focused on greed, paying the minimum wage, no benefits, something like that? You want to be seen as a person who gives back, but you're not giving to the people that are giving you that opportunity. So you have to make sure that you can connect the business goals, but where you really want to focus is where they don't connect. And that's where you have the opportunity to interject your service. So like say, for instance, you want to be charitable. Well, we can run ads saying that, every part or certain percentage of all of your proceeds are going to go to a charity of your choice or something like that. It's going to show the public that your business is a reflection of you versus you being something that your business isn't, right? The other thing that you want to do beyond that too is you want to reinforce that those goals can only be met if you're included in facilitating them. whenever you're able to impress upon someone that you are a need or an asset to them, it is much easier to make a close, where then you would just move into terms once you have to, that I'll send you guys some links to, that kind of gave me this well-rounded sales technique. You know, I have a whole stack of books here, as well as a bunch of other things that I definitely have links for you guys if that's something that you want, so that you can check them out yourselves at a later date. I made sure to find the cheapest priced options that Amazon could offer, just because they're global at this point. So it's not like there should be any limitations there in terms of getting those resources. In terms of the collaboration, in terms of what I do with other businesses, white labeling is a big thing. So like for me, whether people just need a strong closer and they're totally fine doing the work, I would do that work for them so that they could then do the actual fulfillment of the services, or vice versa. You know, some people might be strong closers, but they need the work to be done. We do that too. So with that being said, it's just inherently based on helping each other grow, because this is a space that's already super saturated, that if we all try and grow apart from each other, it's just going to dilute the quality of what everybody does. You know, it's not about having the most clients. It's not about having the best results. It's about having happy clients with what you do. And if everybody can benefit from that, that's the way to do it. This is the most saturated personal business space in the world, and it will be for the entire length that social media seems to exist. You know, I'm sure that at some point there's going to be a course on TikTok marketing. I'm already seeing it happen right now, where TikTok is taking in a massive amount of ad spend and ad revenue, because of the fact that that's a platform that a lot of younger, impressionable people are on. It would be great for toys. It would be great for any sort of impulse buys. I don't see it being a thing for professional services, quite frankly, but it is something that is becoming a bigger asset. What niches are the best to start with, and how to book meeting from other countries because of poor economy in my country? This is a great question, because I see it all the time. The single best thing to do is have clear communication with whoever you can connect with. If you are going to be a stronger communicator via email, it's going to make for a harder close, but it's going to make you more understanding or understandable to the prospect's eyes, if language is not your strong suit. So like, for instance, I know Ruben from the group, he landed a Portuguese women's clothing company that I'm doing the fulfillment for on the ad side of things. This is something that I don't speak a lick of Portuguese, but I can deliver results for someone because Facebook translates their ads. Facebook translates their entire platform. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world, as long as you can understand the platform at your own native level, you're going to be able to help other people, as long as you can have someone facilitate that connection for you. So it's not the end of the world that you are in a place that isn't conducive to what you're trying to offer, inherently going to benefit two people at that point. How do you about getting your sales reps? I would love to outsource sales and lead gen and focus on closing and servicing clients. That's a great question, Abbas. So there's a bunch of different things you could do. I rely on people that I know personally, because they're inherently trusting of me. So as long as you can build value for people, partnerships are easy to build. The thing that you're going to have trouble with is trying to pay like a VA or something like that. We tried Philippine salespeople. We've tried all these things, and it's just not working the way that we wanted it to, because the time zone difference is very drastic for us, and the inconsistencies in the deliverables. Now, I'm not saying that all of the Philippine workers that we've come across are the same as, you know, all the other ones out there that we haven't tried, but it's just something that, unless your time zones relate relatively closely to theirs, your entire workday is going to be a little bit messed up. I would say that it would be better to source locally, just because, you know, Abbas, I know that you're in Barbados. The islanders there are going to be the ones that understand the culture the best, how to communicate with the people there the best, as well as how to deliver the best. I mean, like you said, it's a very small island. So if you need to meet with someone day of to get paperwork signed or pitch them, you definitely could. But it would probably be easier if you had the opportunity to have other people out there doing that work for you. But inherently, for them to be able to do that, they need to understand how to navigate where you are. So as long as you have people that you can trust, it shouldn't be an issue. It's just a matter of ensuring that they're trained effectively, as well as having a full scope of what you are trying to offer to prospects, as well as what prospects are trying to offer to the public. You need to have both of those angles covered. Otherwise, you're not going to have a coherent sales pitch. Phone sales. I have a phone meeting with a prospect tomorrow. I was going to set the time frame in the call and then move them onto a Zoom. That is going to overcomplicate it a little bit, Harry, and let me tell you why. So the thing that I spoke with Kevin about at the beginning of this Zoom call was that Zoom is inherently difficult to get people onto unless they're home all the time. With businesses starting to reopen a lot of places around the world, people aren't at home anymore. I mean, even though they should be to a certain degree, it isn't the case that it is, or that it was a month ago. You know, not everybody's being forced to stay home. People are getting back into a routine of being out, and businesses that are essential or semi-essential that are reopening, it is going to be a little bit difficult to get people to sit down after they've just been given their like freedom again. So I would try and stick to phone calls, to be honest with you. But like I said, sales is something that is different for everyone. I'm just sharing my experience with you guys because you are going to inherently get something from it that you can try and see if it works better for you than the things that you've already been trying. But the thing is that I got to remind everybody here that you have to be done on its own. You have to actually get someone to do it or do it yourself. I was going to post on Indeed to hire callers. What's your opinion on that? That is phenomenal. We actually did that for our sales reps and interns, and we have like 300 some applicants in 2 days. So I would hire them on commission only. I would definitely do Indeed, and it's free to post. So I would go for that as well. Bottom line, best to have team members on the same time zone or as close as possible. Yes, 100% of us. The reason being is that you want your work days to kind of start similarly and end similarly. I wouldn't go beyond 3 hours of one another. So like whenever I work with Kevin, you know, he's 4 hours behind. Whenever I was working with a member of the group that was a partner that is now gone, you know, she was 3 hours behind. You have to be kind of on the same time frame. Otherwise, setting meetings is going to be inherently difficult. Just because, say, for instance, I would want to have Kevin on a sales call with me to close one of his clients. I would then have to make sure that my schedule is open in a time where it's actually going to be set for him so that we're on the same wavelength, you know. And I know going forward in time overseas across the pond, they don't have daylight savings time. So for us, that extra issue to circumvent becomes, how are we staying on track with time zones? Because now we leaped ahead. Now it's only 4 hours difference instead of 5. So whenever you're coordinating with people in different time zones, you have to make sure that you are on the same page, not only between yourselves, but with the prospects, because there have been several times where I've found myself to be in a position where the prospect expected a call an hour earlier, an hour later, and we either missed that meeting and had to reschedule, or we lost them as a prospect. So you want to make sure that every single opportunity that you have to double check your times, if you're going to be dealing with people in different time zones, that it's being accounted for well in advance of the meeting. Like even if you have to have on your phone, if you have a phone, like the different world clocks, just setting them for where your partners are located, that would be a really great thing to do, just so that you can keep everybody on the same page just by going to an application and ensuring that everybody's schedules are coordinated as accurately as possible. Have to look outside for clients. That's absolutely true. You know, I forget who it was before. Maybe it was Abshik. Whenever you're in an area where your client base is inherently limited just because volume is totally different, you're always going to want to go to where the prospects are best, but also keep in mind they're the ones that are being competed for the most aggressively. You see that in the Affluent group, if you're a member, all the time, just because that the prospect that they reached out to gets emails like this every day about some digital marketer that thinks that they're going to, you know, revolutionize or totally change their business. This is a space where there really is no guarantee. Advertising in the United States is a 100% tax deductible item because of the fact that it has the highest risks for being a total loss. Now, when you know what you're doing via using Facebook ads or LinkedIn ads or YouTube ads, where you have the ability to measure traffic and target specific demographics, interests, or geographies, you're able to convert better because you have the data at your disposal. That's why billboards are dying. That's why TV ads are dying. That's why radio ads are practically dead or super cheap, because of the fact that they're the least measurable. All you have to do is have a guesstimate of how many people are online at the time that you're actually airing these advertisements. But you don't know specifics. You don't know the specific demographics. The best you probably have is the geographic region that your radio service covers, unless you know based off of statistical data what your average listener is, like their personality type is, what their interests are. So like say if it's a sports news network, chances are that they're sports fans in the area that you live. So they probably like those teams too. So you could promote things relevant to that. But it's so much on a whim that it's very hard to keep track of. It's very, very hard to keep track of. What else did I want to go over before we just get to hearing you guys personally give a little bit on your story or experience? So in terms of being personable, whenever you're connecting with new individuals or prospects, what is the single biggest thing that you're doing when you connect with them to make you sound like you're worth talking to? Like, is it a value drop? Is it something just showing inherent concern for their business? How are you connecting with gatekeepers if you're posed with one? Like, how are you overcoming stage one objections, which are just connecting with the business? Is it email outreach first and then hopping on a phone call? Like, what is a very light strategy that you guys are doing to ensure that whenever you do outreach, that it has the highest likelihood possible for you to actually make something of it? Cold looms. So, Harry, let me unmute you for a second. Let me kind of go over what you're doing with the cold looms, because I think I actually saw you do a post about this in the group not that long ago.
Yeah, so my strategy changes quite a lot depending on, you know, how I'm feeling or what's working at the time. Generally, the best results I get to warm up a lead that is straight cold is with a loom. So I would send it to either the business owner's email address, or a strategy I've been using, I'll DM the business, the business's page, and ask them, you know, with like a PS, is there anyone that I should be directing this to? And generally they give me an email. With that email, I then send the loom. So I address that I've sent them a message on Instagram, and they kind of give me their email, and I go on with the loom. Generally that warms them up, and that sort of just associates me with rapport straight away. And that's how I get in there with the first contact, and it works really well.
How often does that lead to an actual sales meeting? I mean, you don't have to call it a sales meeting, or you don't have to tell them it's a sales meeting, but between that and actually pitching your service to them, what happens in between typically?
Generally, I usually leave within the loom. I leave like a calendar link, and I just sort of give them a bit of value up front and go, look, if you want to know more, I've got a lot more to tell you, and hopefully we can work on something like a partnership. And if they can either see the video, take it away, and generally they do, or they'll book in a time with me, and we'll see if it's a good fit. So that's how I generally get them in.
So do you think it's more beneficial for them to make those changes themselves to see if they want to do more? Like, are you finding that prospects actually take action on what you outline and then they come back to you asking for more information? Or is it something that they just take it and run with it?
Well, generally, I've noticed that they take it, but they don't do anything about it, and because they're busy. But they say you do, and then you keep following up, and then, yeah, then after that, it's a follow-up game. So it depends. Every prospect is different, but honestly, there's not been one prospect where I've given them like valuable information and they've taken action on it. So yeah, they sort of, I guess that's when you sort of fizzle out into the dark with everyone else. But usually, I keep on top of mind in terms of that, and that's what generally works. But like I said, like I just messaged you a minute ago. I've just got someone asking me to call them. So I'm getting a lot of prospects asking me to call them, and I generally never call people on the phone with a meeting. So I've never had that kind of dynamic of a sales call, just generally on the phone. So I'm interested to find out how I can, because like you said, I was going to put them onto to Zoom and get them on a meeting, because I generally work that way, but it doesn't work all the time. So I want to know how you and Kevin get on the call and get them and close them on then, because that would be great to know.
So it's a lot, and Abbas had a question for you too. I don't know if this is something you'd be able to answer, Harry, but what's your closing ratio based on cold looming?
Good question. For me, I'm not really good at sales, hence is why I'm on this call. So I reckon about so out of every like 3 meetings, I might have closed 1. So 30%, if that, like 25%. Honestly, my sales are really bad. So yeah, not the greatest. But
the typical close is about 5%. So that's a lot better than average. So don't beat yourself up for that.
Well, the thing is, my volume's not my volume is quite high. So every loom I set. So I'll say if I set like 20 to 30 looms, I'll get one response or one meeting from that. So it's a lot of work.
So it's more volume, and then out of the people that respond, you get 30% of those. So you are probably a little bit closer, like 5 to 10% in that average.
Yeah, absolutely. When I get a meeting, because they know me better and they're comfortable with me, it gets quite good. The dynamics are good, but my whole pre-framing and authority and stuff like that is not good. So I generally crumble when they give me an objection or anything like that.
Okay, that is a great segue. What's the biggest objections that you tend to face with, or that you tend to be faced with?
I guess it's just kind of explaining the whole, they just sort of cut. I guess it's my sales process. I don't really have, I followed Jordan's one, but I don't really like sticking to it because asking a business owner how they feel emotionally about like how their kids feel if they had more time and stuff like that. I generally I'm not comfortable saying that. So when I get
not a good pitch in my opinion either. So I agree.
Yeah. So like when I ask them qualifying questions, what's your digital marketing strategy? What does the sales process look like now? Are you happy with your sales systems? Tell me more. And then when I try to get into the deeper route, when I've got a busy business owner who's like managing like with loads of staff, and they're like, what would you mean like my wife? Like how would you like I never get into the deeper side of it. I think because I don't get into that kind of connection, I don't position myself as a route to their where they want to be. So I guess I struggle with that. So I can get the meetings. It's just trying to be the vehicle for their direction, really.
And that ties into step 3 of my sales process. Once you understand their personal goals and their business goals, tying them together and showing them how separated some of them are can be that realization that they need to make. And because you are the one that raised that realization to them, my allergies for the last few days have been bugging me pretty bad. But that is a great way to break down that initial trust barrier with prospects, is that if they can see you as I don't want to say a miracle, because it's very seldom that ever happens to really anybody, but whenever you actually raise a good point to them as a total stranger that you can then immediately see is impacting them in a meaningful way, you are 85% of the way there. You just need to be on your A game when it comes to showing why what you do works, because it's evident that you understand them as a person, that you're raising those issues, trying to tie those goals together. And a lot of sales is based on psychology. So whenever you have you break past that superficial barrier and you get into them on a personal level, that's where a real meaningful exchange can start to take place. And that's where you start to show them how specifically what you do works the way it does and how it gets X results. And then you just ask them, it sounds like this is a good idea or at least you're making it seem like this is a good idea. Is this something you'd want to move forward with? So the way that you do that is that you inherently show them that what you bring to the table is worth significantly more than you're asking to be paid. And the way that you do that is that you leverage that an average in-house marketing executive or, marketer in general is going to cost them about 2 to 3 times more than what you're asking for. They don't have to pay your tax liability. They don't have to pay your benefits. They don't have to pay your sick time off or sick leave. And you have all the freedoms that you want for less money. And the reason that's important is because it shows them on paper that it's a logical value proposition. Whenever they have the insight that you give them as a stranger about their personality, and then they see that you're asking for less than what you're worth, it's kind of going into that business mentality where this is a great return on investment, just because to get the same thing, I would have to put in a lot more if I wanted total control of what's going on. And it's not like they don't have a say. It's just that you're the professional and they're coming to you and you're working on a partnership basis more so than an employee basis. Because whenever you have that authority over your head dangling like a carrot, it creates a power struggle between wanting to deliver results super effectively and also making your employment valuable to them by having consistent good results with great ones mixed in, so that it kind of continues to build and perpetuate itself. You don't want to deliver all the value right away, because ultimately if you show like, oh, this is a one-hit wonder, they're going to think that they don't need this very often. It's something where you don't have certain degree of continuity with what you do. So like say for instance, the first month you smash it, you add 20%, 25% new revenue to their business. So you essentially grew their business a quarter in 1 month. And then the next month it falls flat on its face and you grow 5 to 10%. They're going to think like, well, why did this work so well month 1 and not month 2? You know, it's going to start to put doubt into their mind. You want to start strong, but you want to have continuity of results moving forward, but also explain to them that marketing is not always a one-hit wonder and different promotional strategies yield different results. You know, you could run that same ad that you ran month 1 that grew them 25% new business in the first month. And in month 2, you can see a diminished return. You could see that maybe grew by 15%. That's still good, but that also shows that this only has so much life to it. So maybe you do 1 more month and it only adds an additional 5% of business, but then you do a new ad promoting a different product or service or putting a different spin on the same thing, and then you see it going back up the other way. You want to ensure that what you're selling them is not so much the service, but the idea that the service adds longevity to their business. Yeah. So whenever you're putting that spin on it and doing it in the right angle in a constructive way, they're going to believe that. And it's not about just selling them a belief. It's about selling them results, but you have to do it in a way that doesn't diminish your value to them over time too. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you're saying. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Cool. So I want to hear about you guys and specifically the objections that you're having the most problem with overcoming. And I'm going to unmute you all. I ask you to be respectful of others if they're talking first, or just whoever types, I'll go first in the comments or whatever. I'll unmute you and then we'll go from there. Does anybody have an objection that they'd like to raise?
What makes you different from, oh God.
Yeah, exactly what I worried about. Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I'm going first.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So, like you said, what objection like we are facing while I DM business owners like realtors or something like that. Then first they want to know what social media marketing is, like how popular this is and all. And after a while, they are like, no, I'm not interested. I'm like. They give some excuses like that.
What is the typical excuse that they give? Not interested, don't have the money, we already do this.
Yeah, they say like they are planning to like they are already in touch with someone and all that thing.
Okay. So the fastest way that you can circumvent those issues is to show them that results that you've gotten in the past. And the reason that's important is because it shows proof of concept to kind of reopen their mind. Whenever someone's closed-minded like that, you have to look at it like a oyster that needs to be opened. They could have a really hard time, or you could have a really hard time trying to get them to open up. But the thing is that there is going to be something that will get them to do it. Whether it be do a Loom video like Harry suggested, or whether it be, just an audit of their digital presence to say, there's a lot of red flags here. I know that you said you don't need this, but I just found a whole bunch of reasons that you do. So as long as you can provide value in a meaningful way without coming off as condescending, like they need you, that's how you're really going to start to see some forward momentum with that. I hope that helps. Sam, I got a question about ads once we've covered objections. Does anybody else have any objections that they frequently deal with?
Only issue I've had myself, not an objection, but my emails seem to go into spam to customers, right? So that's one issue I've had. So I don't know if you would recommend maybe getting a different email starting over. What's your recommendation on that?
The problem with anything that sounds salesy or anything with an attachment from someone that they don't have saved as a contact, it's going to inherently go to spam first. The reason that happens is just because of the filters that Google will set via Gmail or Outlook. The reason being is it's trying to protect people from opening something that might have a virus or something like that, even if it's not at any risk of being a virus. So I would say that I would check your Gmail settings or include the attachments within the email. Don't have them as a separate attachment. That's what I think my first thing to do would be. If that continues to happen, I would say start to send emails on a continual basis, almost as if they're subscribed to your email list or something like that. The reason being is once they see consistency, they might automatically start throwing your emails into the regular inbox via their Outlook.
Okay, that makes sense actually, because I think the only thing I sent on there was my website, and I know even on my own Gmail account, it was saying that my website looked kind of suspicious.
Okay.
So,
do you have an SSL certificate on your website?
I do. That's why I thought it was weird. So.
Okay. Yes. All right. So let's see. What agencies make you different from all the other marketing agencies we speak with? Harry, that's a great question. And like I said, this is an inherently oversaturated space at the moment. And I'm not saying oversaturated in the way that, you know, all of the clients are taken up. It's that there's a lot of people fighting for the same people. And the reason that that's a problem, thanks for staying, Pat. It was great to have you. And then this recording will be sent to you after the fact. Okay.
Gotcha. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Happy to do it. So back to Harry's question. The differentiation is going to come via results. It has to come from something tangible. And the reason that's important is anybody can give results. The other thing is that not everybody can connect with the business owners on the same way. You know, there's going to be people that have a more aggressive personality or selling style that might turn business owners off. The reason that I don't like to sell in a pushy way is because I'd rather have a conversation than a pitch. Because a pitch really involves only one person talking. It doesn't really have a whole lot of back and forth, which is what you're going to need to uncover issues to how to circumvent any objections that they throw at you. So like, for instance, I know a lot of business owners that we prospect are probably 2 to 3 times my age. They're not going to take someone my age seriously. I mean, I'm in a tie-dye hoodie in my basement. It's one of those things that, like, typically speaking, that's why I like to stick to the phone, because the removal of the video inherently removes an objection. They don't have a view of me, so they can't object on my age. The other thing is too, is that they can't see where I live. You know, that would be another thing. I know that I'm in a slightly different situation than a fair amount of people in the group, but if you worry that your background where you're presenting yourself in doesn't come off as professional, that could be a turnoff for them too. So stick to the phones. You know, whenever you're removing objections by the way that you carry the conversation, you inherently add value to your own case because they don't have something to hold against you, right? So I know that that's something even myself I've been dealing with. I've been wanting to record more YouTube videos and things of that nature. And the single biggest thing that I'm trying to do is create the proper studio space for consistency. I didn't even think about that. And maybe it's, you know, my culture or background. You know, I'm Hispanic, but I look very white. So it's not something I typically have to deal with. But that is a great way to look at that. It definitely eliminates any superficialities that they may be able to hold against you. So that is a phenomenal insight there. So thank you for sharing that. But in terms of eliminating other things from Zoom, you also have the ability to just make it simple. People appreciate simplicity when their time is valuable. So if you can just hop on a phone call like everybody else, it allows you to mitigate having to sit in front of a computer. It allows you to get around the fact of having to look presentable. It gets around the fact of having to be in an area where maybe they're uncomfortable having a video conversation, or maybe they're just so introverted that they don't want people looking at them like in a intentful way. So like, you know, for myself, I would carry myself professionally if I had to do a Zoom meeting. The reason I don't do that is because body language on a sales pitch, it matters. But whenever you're on the phone, you're moving your hands and whatnot, and you're talking the same way that you would via Zoom anyway. You just don't have them seeing that. It's something that you can hold as like a
kind of an advantage to yourself, right? If you have tics or things that make you nervous and they can't see that, then that's another thing that just should add to your benefit, because it's not showing them that you're nervous. It's not showing them maybe if you get sweaty when you're in a situation that makes you uncomfortable. You know, it allows you to remove all those superficialities like we already talked about, but this is the angle that I put on it for your own sake versus theirs. To them, this could be any reason to just connect with someone. You know, partnerships in the past typically took place over the phone before we even had webcams. Either that or in person. And in person is still the strongest in my opinion, as long as you've already solidified the trust beforehand. And the reason that's important is, like, say for instance, I've done this multiple times where I seal a deal over the phone. I show up to the office and then I say that, you know, the doctor's expecting me for a business meeting, or I'm here to talk to Jeff or whatever, you know, whoever I'm trying to connect with or had connected with. And they might give you a funny look or something. It's like, I didn't think that's what you would look like or whatever. Once you already have the trust solidified, that's when the superficialities don't matter anymore, unless it's something that really aggravates the prospect. And, you know, like Abbas raised the question, if it's a thing about race, if it's a thing about culture, if it's something about the way variables that you won't know if they're an advantage or a disadvantage until they come to light. So as long as you have the ability to gain trust beforehand, you remove any of those risks. So that's a really big benefit. And that's why I primarily stick to phone calls while we are making a deal, because after the deal is made and they have contracts signed, those things don't matter anymore. It's just about moving forward and helping them in the most meaningful way that you know or you are trained to do.
Steven, is it cool if I share from myself? Is that cool?
Absolutely, Kevin. I'd be more than happy for you too.
So one thing I will say is I do have a lot of experience with phone calls, just because before I did this, I was a financial advisor at a bank. And, you know, the only reason I struggled with the phone calls with social media marketing was because it was my own business, and I think that made me nervous. But that's really all it is. You know, for anyone who's out there who's nervous and stuff like that, it's just about not being nervous and just knowing that when you make those phone calls, like, you're gonna mess up. You just gotta mess up, and that's fine. You know, like, you gotta work through it. When I was a financial advisor, I had the same problem Steven had. I was talking to people about investing money in stocks. I'm 29 years old. I was like 26 when I started doing that, 25. And, you know, I'm telling people to invest in stocks, and these people are like in their 50s, 60s, 70 years old, you know, and it's just about how you present yourself. They never questioned me, not once. They never questioned, you know, whether I had the experience or if I could do it. You know, they didn't even care, because it was just about how I presented myself. And I've noticed that now that I take the phone calls, ever since I talked to Steven about 3 weeks ago, and I started just doing the phone calls. It's really just how you present yourself on the phone. And when you present yourself with that confidence, like now that I present myself with that same confidence I had when I was an advisor, it really does. It's a game changer. It changes the game for you, because you can take a phone call whenever, wherever. You know, it's so much easier to take a phone call for a business owner, because they could be driving, and, you know, they can take a phone call for you. So I will say I'm with Steven on the whole phone call thing. I think it's a lot easier, just about how you present yourself. And then when you do meet someone, you know, face to face, you know, it's all about adjusting to that person, because everybody's different, right? People who work in construction might be a little bit different than someone talking to someone who's like a doctor or something like that, you know?
Right. There's inherent differences just in life that you have to be able to connect with everybody on some level. And I think that that's a great point that you just raised, Kevin, because a doctor might be a construction worker or something like that. And that's just a part of understanding your audience, if you will, right? It's a big part of understanding what makes people tick, and paying attention to those little things is inherently what's going to add a bigger opportunity for you to add value. Because if you can connect with them based on their preferences of life, you are already a more trusting asset to them. Because, say for instance, I know Kevin is really focusing on real estate right now. He wants to get into, you know, owning properties to rent, and I think he already has a few. So it's something that he understands that space, and he understands that space enough to connect with other people based on what that space offers experientially. So like maybe he connects with someone who's a real estate developer that also owns rental properties. They connect on the rental property thing and then sells the service based on the other business. You know, I can't tell you how many times I've run into that, where people are serial entrepreneurs, where they have real estate business and they have Airbnb business on the side. And then they're also looking at doing a landscaping business. Like there's so many things that you can tie together and integrate with one another that allows you the opportunity to further everything at the same time. And then you can even make better deals because of it. So like say, for instance, someone has 3 businesses, they're all going to need promoted. Well, give them a good deal for what it is, but you are also getting one client that's inherently a lot more valuable, and the work really might not all be that different. You know, the targeting, if it's going to be relative or complementary goods, is going to be relatively the same. So like say, for instance, real estate developers, you want to target homeowners, people that are looking to build a house or have searched houses for sale. Reason being is it's complementary. You either have the opportunity to purchase something that's already been built, something that's been lived in and built a while ago, or something that you can build now. Whenever you have those different angles to put at one another, you have the ability to make stronger fundamental connections between your potential audience as well as what the business owner is trying to offer. And the better that you understand that connection, the better value you're going to be able to build. So like say, for instance, that real estate developer is starting a landscaping business. You want to target homeowners because typically people that live in apartments or condos don't do like lawn care maintenance or anything like that. So you're either going to want to connect with the building owners for that case for apartments. Not a problem, Kevin. Thank you so much for coming in, man. We're going to get you that video afterward. Whenever you're looking at these fundamental connections between them, you want to make sure that the potential client's a good fit for the business. You're also looking at whether or not they have enough money, whether or not their brand is in the right light or presented the right way. There's so many different little nuances that can be a stronger sell if you pay attention to them and pick up on them as they arise. So in terms of what else we have here, I guess we kind of went over everything. Is there anybody that wants to share their own personal experience with whether it's prospecting, objections, anything like that? I know Abbas already raised a lot of insights, and I'm sure that he probably has more. Haven't heard from Lex. I know we heard from Andrew. Abdu, I don't know if we heard from you. Sam, we heard from you. I don't know if we heard from Hannah. Dennis. Did we hear from Dennis? I don't know. Adita, don't know if we heard from you. Joe, Mandy. Does anybody have anything to share, whether it's just their experience that they think other people would benefit from or anything like that?
I've had a few experiences where I would have had some meeting or went through the full explanation of what we do, etc. And they said, yes, everything's interested. And then when I look around, they're trying to do the ads themselves. They didn't respond to me. So I just move on. I don't waste time.
Andrew has a good story about that. It was like the first lead that he ever brought me. I don't know if you want to tell everybody the low story or not. I guess in a nutshell, he used to work.
Yeah.
Go ahead, man. You tell it.
Yeah, I could tell. Yeah. So the Lowe's thing. So I used to work for Lowe's, and we had, I don't know, we were probably going for like about 2-3 weeks trying to like talk to them. And so I finally got in a meeting with the HR manager, and the HR manager was completely, like, she wanted to hear me out, but she actually sent her assistant to talk to me, so which was fine. And me and Steve talked to her, and we laid them out everything, told them the good, the bad, the ugly. And then she was actually really impressed with me and Steve, mainly Steve, because Steve wowed her. And once, I say about a month went by until they actually got back to me. And then once they got back to me and let me know that they didn't want to go through with our services, they actually, they were going through a lot of job fairs at the time. And the last job fair that they did right after right after that meeting that we had. Before that, prior to that, they were only getting maybe 5 to 10 people coming in. And then after we had that one meeting, they actually reached almost 150 people to come into that one meeting. And then, you know, we showed them the value. And then after that, they just, I don't know, they just kind of flaked and tried to, you know, basically try to take it on their own and do it on themselves. And I've actually been hearing that they've not been doing that good with job fairs since. So maybe in the future they'll reach out to us, but you know, nothing really we can do.
Yeah. And I think that's a story that a lot of people will come across, that for those that provide, say, an audit or something like that as a part of their sales pitch, they're going to go through and see how much effort it would take to change all of these issues. And the reason that that is a benefit and also kind of hindrance to you is that unless you limited what you put on there, you're going to face that exact objection like Abbas raised, and same with Andrew, because of the fact that they kind of have the whole understanding of what needs fixed. And if you tell them everything, which isn't a bad thing to do, but also a little bit of a deterrent would be, well, if they have the whole story, then they can't do something with, or they'll do something with it. If they only have half of the story, then they need to rely on you to tell it to them, whether it be having them pay for a consultation if they have interest in that, or, you know, whatever the case may be. So Mandy had a question here from how to make sure that business owners understand the lifetime value of their customers and how it is tied to Facebook advertising. I mainly had leads via recommendations, but want to jump real sales calls. Sorry for the late questions. So the single biggest thing that people need to understand about their lifetime value per customer is looking at it on paper. Look at the average customer's life within your business. So like, say for instance, subscription services have the longest typically. Reason being is you have someone who's buying the same thing over and over again because they run out and they need it. You see that with pharmacies and medicine, with the big pharmaceutical companies. You see that with cars in a lot of places, at least in the States, where like people get leases so they can have a nicer car for a little bit less of an expense. But at some point that lease ends, so they have to get a new vehicle, even though it is, you know, a typically longer term purchase. So like, say for instance, a dealership makes $10,000 per lease. Well, say you get 3 leases over the course of 10 years, that's an additional $30,000 in their pocket. So it's very important to pay attention to that. Thank you for being here, Harry. We'll make sure to get this video to you after we are totally done. But thank you for attending. Let's see. You mentioned you and Kevin run the meetings over the phone. What is the format of these? How do you get the right info across to them? How you would otherwise show them on the screen? So Dennis, that's a really good question. That's something that we'll go into after this, because I know that we have a consult together. Absolutely, Manny. Happy to answer that. The single biggest thing that you can do is kind of have a generic outline. Like I have my 4-step process. You have your personal goals. You outline their business goals. You try and see which ones connect and which ones don't. And then you solidify the trust by showing them exactly how you do what you do and why it's going to make a positive impact on their business. And then you just get to terms. So that's
Steven,
really,
you mind if I share?
Yeah, Kevin, go ahead.
Because I know I'm a little newer, so maybe I can connect a little bit. So, like
Absolutely.
the easiest thing that's been for me, because, you know, I don't have the experience that Steven has. Steven's been killing it. He's been doing this for a while. But for me, like the easiest thing that helps with the calls, man, is something that we spoke about earlier, and it's just make it personable. Just connect with them, you know, right from the beginning. Like right from the beginning, don't go straight to business. Just go straight to, hey, how you doing? How's it going out there? You know, oh, I see that you're in, you know, if you're in the United States, you know, then, oh, I see that you're in that state, you know, how's it over there? I've never been there. You know, just make it personal for like the first, like, you know, minute and a half, just to find something to connect. And then from then on, everything just takes off as a conversation, and you just kind of connect it, like what Steven says, with the meeting and going over their strategy and going over all that stuff. And I'm sure, you know, Steven can kind of keep going on this. But yeah, that's basically the best way to go about it.
Not only that, you also want to focus on trust. It's inherently important. And that's why giving them that kind of revelation moment by trying to connect their personal goals to their business goals and showing them where they're lacking, that is what's going to solidify that trust more than anything, because it's showing them that you're paying attention to them as a person. They don't want to be pitched. They want to be connected with. And whenever you can connect with people, you're also connecting with their finances. You're connecting with their story. You know, the reason that you want to like understand their personal goals is because you want to understand what got them into that business in the first place, or what interested them enough to pursue a business in whatever niche or field that they're, you know, having a business in. You also have to understand why they're wanting to provide that to other people, whether they get a benefit out of doing it themselves, whether they like manual labor and landscaping, or whether they like building homes because they put pride in what they do. So it's something that people can enjoy over the course of a long time, knowing that they're adding value to people's lives. I mean, that's why I do what I do. You know, doesn't bother me at all, because I'm connecting with people that are like-minded, that are trying to benefit other people too. And we all grow together. And that's the fastest way to get everybody to where they want to be, is by being that cohesive group of like-minded individuals that are wanting more for not only themselves, but for other people. Sam, you said you want to say something, so you are unmuted, my man. Go ahead.
Hello. Time video on. Hey, yeah, so it's just a question about ads, and I'm pretty new to this, so I don't have that much experience. So I don't know whether or not it's just me being stupid or this is how it goes, but I've got a client who, they sell like luxury high-end leather goods. It's about £200 an item, and we start running an ad. Goes really well for a couple of days. You get like 3-4 conversions, so you know it's like 10 times ROAS straight away. But then those ads, instead of getting better, more profitable over time, seem to just stop. We'll have a really strong first few days, and whilst like the cost per click and the click-through rate might improve over time, conversions just stagnant. And I don't have the frame of reference or the experience to know whether or not I should just keep running those ads, try different audiences. I'm just not really sure. I don't know if that's a common thing, or yeah, I'm just a bit stuck.
What's the budget that you're working with?
It's about £500 a month. It's not big. And the thing is, this business, they're probably not like the ideal client in terms of like the ideal prospecting criteria. So they didn't have really much existing traffic, but they have really good products, they have really good creatives, and like the ads like perform well initially. It's just like I say, there's that big drop off afterwards. I'm just not sure what I'm doing wrong or what I'm doing right. If that makes sense. So
because you're tracking conversions, I'm going to assume that there's pixels installed. Of the people that have converted, what demographics do they typically fall into?
So they're all men over 45, really. And I have adjusted my ads sort of for that. But still, it's still not as, I can never beat the first 72 hours. Like the next like week and a half is always worse than the first 72 hours. And it's in my mind, it would be the other way around. If that makes sense. Are you only running product ads, or are you doing brand awareness ads as well? Just product ads.
Okay. That's probably why. So like you said, there's an inherently low amount of pre-existing traffic, right? So with that being said, what is going to benefit the business is better brand awareness. And here's a strategy that I would use. I would do as totally generic as you can, maybe just tailor the gender to men specifically. Reason being for men, because it's men's luxury leather goods. But what I would do is, men all over the world, I'm going to assume that this e-com company ships everywhere.
Yeah, we've only really focused on the UK market so far, but there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to.
Right. So with that being said, I would maybe run a campaign in the States that's just men, not segmenting age, just because I feel like in the States, everybody will buy something if it's worth the price point, regardless of their age. Then from there, once you have a brand awareness campaign, whether it's like getting people to engage with the page, whether it's liking it or something like that, then do another slightly more targeted ad to people that like the page, doing more brand awareness stuff, just showcasing products and whatnot, and their friends. So you're also sharing it amongst the people that probably are also like-minded. And then once you get more people to like your page, then you run product campaigns specifically based off of the people that are interacting with your page or going to your website via those second stage ads. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So basically just drive traffic and engagement and then retarget the people that are responding.
Right. And because they're inherently more engaged and they're willing to take action on those things, it's going to be an easier conversion. And you're also going to see that of the people that go to the website that are engaged with it. So like do the first ones to like the page, then do the ones that the friends that like the page and their friends, then do that to website traffic. Once you get website traffic, start doing product ads using the pixel data. And then as you bring the funnel in together, the ad spend is also going to be like this as well, right? So the general awareness is going to be the most expensive because you have to hit as many heads as possible. Then you get them to engage and go to the website. And then from that data, funneling it down is going to be relatively inexpensive. Thank you, Abba.
Thanks for that. Really appreciate it because I was a bit stuck, but it's definitely got me some stuff to try. So thanks, man. Absolutely.
Happy to help. So thank you, man. I appreciate that you like the format. It definitely means a lot. And I'm going to try and start doing more of these. You say you have a few things that you want to discuss. Is that something that you want to do in here, or is it something that you'd like to do privately? Where did Abbas even go? Uh-oh, did he disconnect? Oh, no, he's out. Okay. So with that being said, does anybody have anything else that they want to bring up, whether it's sales related, ads related, anything like that? All right, guys. Well, if that is it, or wait, hold on. Anurag, how do you deal with business manager bans? Oof. That's a great question. It really just depends on the issue that you're facing. So with that being said, you're banned for a couple reasons. Either you've been blatantly not paying attention to the advertising policies, you've been restricted by other people. Mandy will definitely do an ad specific training and Q&A. I will tell you though, ads are not my specialty specifically. Sales is definitely more of that, but I'd be more than happy to talk about what I can share. That would be definitely something I think a lot of people would benefit from.
Hello. Yeah. So about sales, I think everyone here is a little more advanced than I am. We started our agency just a couple of weeks ago, and we have reached out to over 100 prospects, e-com prospects via email and DMs. We've done video audits as well, but we are having trouble, getting responses. People aren't, most of them aren't even opening, the messages or the emails. So, I mean, I'm following all the formats given by Jordan in the Affluent Academy, but we're having trouble getting responses. And we haven't been able to set any meetings as well.
It might be something to do with your outreach. Reason being, like whenever you're connecting with these people, what is the method that you typically use the most? Is it email? Is it direct messaging? Is it phone calls? And what are you including in your initial outreach as well? That would be another good thing to know.
We are using the exact strategy taught by Jordan right now, be it the scripts or the strategy for e-com prospects that he gives out is, I think, email, DMs, and video audits. So that's what we're doing.
That's a good thing to do. Now, I would say keep in mind that's not the only way to do it. And I wish Johnny would have been here. I know that he couldn't be today, but
Jordan.
No, Johnny Allen. He's one of the people within the group as well that's specific to e-com. He doesn't want to do any ads for brick and mortars typically, or at least that's what I've learned from him over the course of the last couple of days of us talking. But essentially, the biggest thing that you can do is pay attention to the nuances inherently sound right to you, maybe in your head as you're reading it, but it might not sound right to the prospect. So you have to think of each piece of outreach as a letter that you would get. Is that something that you would want to read or something that you would want to take action on? So take that perspective into account. And then if you have any, questions about that as you, adapt your outreach strategy, please let me know. I'd love to further talk about that with you.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Thanks.
Absolutely. Abdu, how do you find high quality prospects? I've been collecting a list of prospects, but I'm having a lot of trouble finding the business owner's name. The business owner's name can typically be a really hard or really easy thing to find, and it depends on how aware the general public is of who owns what entities, as well as, you know, how active these owners are on social media. So it really depends on a couple different things. One, where you're collecting the original data, whether it be from the business's website, whether it be from, say, Google in general, whether it be from social media, any of these things. The biggest thing that you're going to want to do to contribute to the success of, you know, finding that higher qualification data is going to be based off of how extensive background research you're going to be doing. So what I would do is I would get leads lists. I would go to LinkedIn after the fact to see if they have a business page, see who is part of that organization, and then from there, see if anyone's listed as the owner, founder, president, you know, whatever the highest seat position is depending on each entity, and then try and connect with them via their own personal profile, or trying to find that data in another place. But as long as you know their name, you can try calling the business and say, hey, I have a meeting with Mike. Is he in right now? And because the gatekeeper thinks that you are on a more personal basis with the business owner, they might not question it and just put you through. So it really just depends on the angle that you're willing to put on it. I mean, that's typically what I would do. And that's part of my strategy is whenever we give our call setters the ability to set these calls, is that we try and give them as much qualified data as possible so that we can just get right through without really raising any suspicions. Does anybody else have anything? And we're at the hour and 30-minute mark. I don't know if Joe, at the start of launching an agency, absolutely, Abdu. Would you advise people to find the leads themselves or use lead finding services instead? As I am trying to get the owner's contact information, it is really time consuming, Joe. And the reason that it is because it's not information that should be readily accessible for this exact purpose. You know, they don't want to be sold. As you have that understanding, you're going to understand that it is going to be inherently hard to find unless it is readily available. And even then, connecting with people is difficult from time to time too, even if you know who to contact, just because of the fact that they're purposefully trying to be hard to contact, you know? So what I would do to circumvent that is get a little bit of perspective. So it's either going to be time spent or money spent. The money spent is going to make your life easier, right? Because you're saving more time to find a lot of lead-based information. So like I can even share with you guys a screenshot or whatever from the lead service that I use. And I can give you a breakdown and example of that, which might be beneficial to you guys at a later date. But essentially it'll tell me the business name, it'll tell me the phone number, it'll tell me whether or not they have a presence on Google, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn, their website link, and their administrative email. It doesn't usually say the business owner's name unless the name of the business is the business owner's name. So like say for instance, a local chain of car dealerships goes by the name of Smale. I know that it's a Smale auto dealership. The Smale family owns it. How do I get in contact with that family? Now, not all businesses are like that. I mean, attorneys' offices are like that, obviously. Doctors' offices in most cases are like that, at least as long as they're independent and not part of a healthcare network. So it's like some businesses you're going to know who to talk to, some you're not. The thing is like, where are you going to put your time and energy to connect with those people in a meaningful way? So you have to make that discernment yourself, because each person, like I said, is going to have a different selling style or a different understanding of how to connect with certain people. So as long as you can do that in a way that is conducive to how you carry yourself, you should be fine. Does anybody else have anything? I know that we might end a little early here if there's nothing else, but I do want to let you all know that it was an absolute pleasure to have you, and I really appreciate you guys being here. I'm going to share a list of things with you guys that might benefit you. I have a bunch of these books that definitely helped me become a stronger seller. I have them all in a Word doc for you guys. If you want to go check those out. I tried to find the cheapest places to get them if you wanted them. And some of the other things, whenever I do prospecting or sales calls, I'll use these noise canceling headphones so that I can really focus on what people are saying. But other than that, I mean, everybody stays organized in a different way. I like to have a nice notebook that holds everything all together. You know, that's really it. These are the stuff that I use typically to, you know, be a little bit more effective when it comes to sales and organization. So that is going to be sent there. Hold on. And if you need this list and you don't have it after the meeting, please let me know and I can share it with you, and then we can go from there. But does anybody have anything else? One more question. What helped you stay focused and avoid procrastination? That's a great question. You know, I typically have pretty loaded days. The single biggest thing that gets me through them is taking about an hour, hour and a half to do something that I love, because it allows me to give some enjoyment in my day. It allows me to take a break, and it also lets me kind of focus on something else other than work so I can come back with a clear mind. It's kind of like my daily palate cleanser, if you will. Reason being is because I feel like if you just focus on work too much, everybody just gets stressed out very quickly. So don't try and force yourself to be stressed out. Try and force yourself to be normal. And it shows when you're stressed over the phone. So you need to take time to do something that you like just to relieve some stress. I myself like to work out. I like to go to the shooting range. You know, I do a whole host of different stuff. So it really just depends on what you enjoy doing, but make sure to do at least something you enjoy once a day.
Thank you, man.
Absolutely. How do you do the laws of comparison and social proof kinds of things over the phone, or do you leave those parts out on the phone call? It really just depends. Something that I do, especially when I'm trying to sell people on website design and SEO, is that I tell them about some of my clients and tell them to just go Google them themselves so that they know that the results aren't manufactured. So whenever I say go explain if spot on, Andrew. Whenever I try and close a website or SEO client, I'll tell them go Google search chiropractic neurologist, Greensburg, Pennsylvania, and my client is still the first entire page of results. So that kind of puts people in their place and giving them comfort in what we do. So it really just depends on what you know to be a strength. It's another thing that I try and not do with ads clients, because I know that as much as we've helped other people within the same niche, the demographics might be different, or the area might have a totally different perspective on what's affordable and what's not. So you also have to pay attention to those nuances as well, because you can say, you know, I have this real estate client that's selling multi-million-dollar homes. Your area doesn't have a whole lot of those, but we can get similar results for homes in your area that are known to be more expensive to the people that live there. Does that make sense? It really just depends on, you know, staying concise, staying to the point, but also showing people that like there's authenticity to what you do and that what you're doing is actually yielding benefit to people. Does anybody else have anything? I know we're kind of dwindling here by the numbers, but we have about 23 more minutes before I have to go. But does anybody have anything else that they'd like to share?
I mean, I'll just say quick that my biggest problem right now where I'm at is maintaining good communication with my client. And that's probably the most stressful thing I could say, is just having a clear communication. I would say like I'm trying to do everything I can, but you know, when the client doesn't want to be as clear with communication as possible, then, you know, it's hard for me to bring the results that I can to make sure that it's, you know, we're as efficient as we can be. So that's my biggest thing, is why, you know, that's why I said in the comment, I wish, you know, I need to be more as clear as possible, because I want to set expectations from the beginning the correct way. So that way, you know, like, you know, that saying in the course where Jordan's like, you really say like, you just want to make sure that we're the perfect fit to, see if we're the perfect fit to work with each other, and just kind of like say, you know, show that you're not desperate for a client. So like that's kind of how I was looking at it, but you know, it's crazy over time how it transitioned to where it's, you know, seriously, you need to see if we're a good fit to work with each other. You know what I mean?
Yep. Abhishek, thank you for staying, man. I know that it's late where you're at, so please feel free to leave whenever you're ready, man. But it was an absolute pleasure to have you here, and thank you for attending. Same thing with you, Joe. It's been a real pleasure. So, oh, Mandy's heading out too. Thank you guys all for attending. Whoever wants to stay for the next few minutes and finish things out, please feel free. Dennis, I'll talk to you in a few. I know we have our consult. Does anybody else have anything that they want to share?
Yeah, actually, I have one question with regards
Absolutely.
to different types of prospects. So I'm technically just getting started on this whole thing and this whole business model, and I'm just starting to shoot the gun on, going forward with it. I've been thinking about it for some time, but I finally decided, what, just go for it and don't look back. But
Right.
I was thinking of so I read Jordan Platten's 15-minute agency book, and he listed a number of niches that I could start off with. And given the whole kind of quarantine and the everyone's at home type of thing, initially I was really looking forward to working with dentists, because I know in my area there's just a lot of local dentists that they're privately run dentists, and I know that there's like it's literally like a gold mine there, because a lot of them just don't run Facebook ads and a lot of things. So other than dentists, given certain circumstances right now. Now, I know Jordan talks a lot about e-commerce. Is there any other niches that you think we should pay attention to? Anything that I should pay attention to starting off?
That's a great question, because obviously you're trying to focus local from what it seems. Would I be right in saying that?
Yeah, because I know there's a huge advantage of establishing yourself locally in just business terms. So that way you can so you can establish a name for yourself. So that way, people, if potential prospects that want to look you up, see that you're established locally in your area, I know that does go a far way and a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. So honestly, Abdu, what I would recommend is I would do a little bit of investigating in what relatively niche businesses are in your area. And the reason that I say that is because only you know your demographics, and maybe this is something we should talk about, maybe doing a one-on-one or something later. But the more volume that you have of very niche things in a very niche area, the higher likelihood you are to kind of create a better sense of competition to then further justify you doing the same work for more people within that niche in that area. I mean, I did that with dentists in my area specifically. We worked with 3, then we worked with 5 out of 13 in a 20-mile radius, and it just kept snowballing and snowballing. When you control a certain demographic relative to the niche that you're trying to help people, experience more, you're going to have a little bit better say in terms of what happens. And you're also going to have more consistency too, because you can show them across the board that advertising is, beneficial to other businesses, and you can showcase saying, I helped all these businesses locally. You could be another one, but they might also fear that you have a conflict of interest. So
really, that's one thing that's also came into my mind. Yeah, the conflict of interest type of thing. It's like, what if I'm going to pitch to a dentist and he's like, "Oh, you're working for my competition." I couldn't in my head, I can't wrap around that objection.
Yeah, it's a tough objection to overcome, because you can show people results and maybe you can hide the data as to who it is. You might be able to say it's another local medical practice. Be a little more generic in the way that you would describe it, but also show them the results pertinent to the area that you're marketing in. Other thing is too, you could do different mixes and say like, okay, I agreed to only market them generically in the area. How about we market specific for like a chiropractor or a physical therapist, something to that effect. It really just depends on what type of spin makes sense to them via your perspective as an outsider. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I would recommend.
Thank you so much, man.
Absolutely. And you know what? Send me a DM too, so that we can connect. I'd like to see how that plays out for you.
For sure, man. For sure. Absolutely.
All right. Well, with that being said, does anybody else have anything? We're down to the last 15 minutes, and I don't mind leaving a little early if you guys don't, or if you guys at least don't have any more questions. The replay is supposedly going to be sent out automatically once this is over. But if you guys need anything at all, please feel free to share or contact me or anything like that. It was a true pleasure if there's nothing else. And hopefully we'll do this again maybe in about 2 weeks or something like that, kind of check in progress. and go from there.
So
Thank
I
you.
have one question
Absolutely.
before we start heading out. So what are the services that you have been using for your own agency to prospect the leads automatically, or what are the software that you usually recommend? If
Send me a
somebody,
DM and I'll send you the link to the specific tool.
all right, that works. That's great.
Perfect. Anybody
Thanks.
else have anything? Well, if that is it, I'm going to end it there. It was an absolute pleasure to have you guys. I'm going to try and do this again in about 2 weeks. If any of you need anything in the meantime, please feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to have a meaningful conversation and try and help other people out. So, Lex, I'll send you a DM, please, too, as I have a question, but not sure how to word it. Okay. Yeah, just let me know whenever you send that, Lex, and we'll go from there. But thank you all for coming and having interest. I know that it was about a third of the show out that was confirmed, but hopefully the next one's a little bit bigger and there's a couple more different perspectives and stories to add to everybody's repertoire. So I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you so much for coming, and I'll talk to you all soon.
Thank you, man. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, man. Have a good one.
Talk
Bye.
to you in a bit, Kev.
Oh, you made it. Phenomenal. What was your biggest takeaway? Let me know below. Don't forget to like and subscribe and turn that notification bell on. Thank you so much for watching. Please be aware that more of these are going to be coming very, very soon.